What is going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Friday, September 1st, ironically, the first Friday of the month and the first day of September. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. We are live on the Touring Your Rain Reloaded channel. If you have not done so already, I would greatly appreciate if you would hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button if you are new. And if you are new, welcome and hit the bell twice to be notified whenever I upload a new video or go live. We have quite a few topics to speak about today. I know y'all only see just a small few of them right there in the bar, in the title bar, but that's only because that's all I could fit in there. You know, on YouTube, you only get a 100 character limit where you could type in what you want to type as far as a title before they deem it too long. But I have way more than just what you see up there, but those are the attention grabbers because I know two of those for sure. I know people are really dying for me to talk about, especially since I've gotten those notification throughout the week, but we are going to get it in. But let's see, who do we have in here so far? We have Sybil, Juan, Demarcus, Joy, Jerome, DJ, Angela, Denise, Handling, Ricky, Rachel, Linda, RC, Cool Spotter, Chris, Stay Positive, Concerned Black Citizen, Savion, Spidey, Don, who else do we have in? Letitia and Jonathan so far, but I'm sure more and more people are going to start trickling on in as time continues to move forward. But how is everybody doing today? How's everybody's week been going? Shout out to all the kids around the nation. You know, I believe this is their first week back to school. Shout out to all of the kids who are going back to school this week. Shout out to all of the educators who gotta endure and deal with that no matter what the situation may be. And we got our first donation of the day live from NYC for the team. Thank you for the $20 super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Let's see who else we got in here. Buzzercam H1, Miss Renee. Oh, Angela said her birthday is tomorrow. Well, happy early birthday. And I hope you have a great one and a memorable one. And it's around people that you deem, I would guess you could say, positive in nature. So we got David, we got RG Titan. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all. And also, yesterday, I was very proud of myself because I posted my first Patreon exclusive video. If y'all saw it on my community tab, I posted my first Patreon exclusive video. I'm so glad that Patreon decided to have the direct upload feature where I didn't have to upload something to YouTube, make it unlisted, and then link it from the YouTube to the Patreon. I'm glad they have it where they made a bigger server. And I think this is something they just implemented this year, which I'm so glad they did. So I was able to upload a video directly from my computer straight to the system as if I was uploading a YouTube video on here. But in case y'all didn't know, it was basically the video about the story about what happened at that Applebee's in Kenosha. I had the video attached to my commentary, and I knew it would have been deemed too graphic, and I could have risked probably getting a strike on YouTube uploading that video on here because it has the video on there as well as my commentary as well. So I decided, you know what, I'm not even going to risk putting it up here, and I put it up on my Patreon. So if you are a patron on Patreon, you got your exclusive video that only you will be able to see and nobody else. And so far, I think I saw I had the last I checked, I had 2 people leave a comment on that particular video. Trust me, it's a hard watch. I had to give a trigger warning at the beginning of that video, which I never do for pretty much any of my videos, with the exception of one other, and that was the Black Massacre series episode that I did on Jonestown. The one I did on what's his name? Jim Jones. Let's see who else we got in here. UJM BEK. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but I'm sure you see it when I'm trying to pronounce it. He said at LA Fitness. Hey, I was actually at the gym this morning. I was doing some cardio. Now to LA Fitness though. Let's see. We got Pork and Beans. What a name. Shout out to you. And we got Damon Reeves in here as well. We have 90 people in here. Let's see if we can get to 100 before I actually get into it, which is going to give y'all about a minute for y'all to get up in here. Because as y'all know, I always start at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's see. We also got Brandon McCullough in here as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad everybody is in here so far. Like I said, we got a pretty interesting show for y'all today. And as y'all know, this is the episode this is the stream, the live that will stay up on the channel. As y'all know, I always go back and forth between having this one stay up here as well as putting one on Patreon. However, what I was thinking about doing is if I get more what I would deem Patreon exclusive content, like the one that I did yesterday, if I'm able to do more of those, then that means I can start leaving these streams up more of these up rather than doing the back and forth type of thing, something like that. But I would have to get more and more Patreon based content in order to do that. It can't just be one a month. It would have to be something more consistent. And shout out to Black Voltron Reloaded for the $49.99. We'll just round it up to 50 super chat. He said, good afternoon and a big B1 salute to you, brother Torian Rain Reloaded, the moderators and the B1 certified family. Shout out from the deep east side, Oakland, California, listening while at work. New Black Media is still here informing us and winning. I definitely appreciate it. I really, really do appreciate it. Along, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Yes, I actually found out about that today, as a matter of fact. I literally, that's not just today, but literally within the last hour. I might look into that. Since that's another story that hit close to home. And that actually might be a Patreon exclusive because the details on that story are very, very, very gruesome. So when I think about stories like that, those are the ones I probably would put up on Patreon. That might be a little too much for YouTube. And the details of that story, from what I did hear a little bit of, that could definitely be a Patreon exclusive based video. And the one thing about Patreon, they don't have a premiere feature like YouTube does. So that means when I'm done recording the video, the minute I'm done, I can just upload it right then and there. So let's see. We also have the hashtag. Oh, we got a new member. Shout out to the hashtaggers, Cameron Hike. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly or not, but thank you for becoming a member on the channel. I definitely appreciate it. Pinky JYB, how are you doing? Oh, I definitely agree. When you said charges of hate crime, I wholeheartedly agree. Valencia E, good evening to you. All right, y'all. It's actually officially 6:12, but that comment, like, I had to acknowledge that one. It is 6:12, so now we are going to go ahead and get started with today's stream. And as y'all know, whenever there is positive news, I always start off with the positive news first because it's like an icebreaker, sort of kicks everything off. I actually have 3 positive stories to talk about today, and all 3 of them are within the same realm of each other, and I couldn't wait to talk about all 3 of them. So the first one I want to talk about is Sha'Carri Richardson. Let me just say this. First off, put some runners in the chat. Put some running emojis in the chat. I think there is a running emoji that you can put in there. If there is one, put some running emojis in the chat for our sister Sha'Carri Richardson, who I have deemed the comeback queen. I truly believe that, she's going to have one of the best comebacks ever in recent sports history, because people counted her out. People said she was done. They said she's never going to do this again after she had her issues a couple years ago, and she has come back to prove all her haters and all of her critics wrong, because ever since she started off this year, she has been dominating. This woman has been dominating every single race that she's ran this year. I think she's only placed 3rd or 2nd in one other race, but every other one she's won gold. Like, this woman came back and said, okay, I'm gonna prove all of them wrong, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna dominate this. She is ready. She is ready for Paris. She is ready for next year. And I'm so proud of her, because I was one of the few people who was on her side when she was going through what she was going through a couple years ago. Everybody else was ready to make all kinds of comments and commentaries to say how trash she is and how, this and that she is. But look at them now. Where are her critics now? Where are they now? They either have nothing to say or they gotta lick their wounds. And one thing I also like about her too is that she kept in mind of a lot of people who were her critics, because It was a video that went viral online where she literally walked past all the white media reporters and went straight to the black reporters. I'm telling y'all, I swear, I think a lot of people out there who's in the public spotlight, who are public figures, are listening to us, because she went and talked straight to. She went and made a beeline and went and talked immediately to uh the black reporters. But yeah, I wasn't one of the. Y'all can go back and look at my videos. I even did a video on that one girl out of Russia who got caught using what they would be deemed as illegal drugs when no one else was really talking about it like that, and how I was trying to say, well, where's all this smoke now? Y'all had all this stuff to say for Sha'Carri for a little bit of weed, but this chick was over here using what would be deemed an illegal drug, but y'all had nothing to say about that. But we know why it is. I mean, we're not new to this. But definitely shout out to her. As y'all can see right here, this is actually a recent win that she had. This was the Zurich Diamond League, and she won in the 100 meter. So that's the second time this year that she's won in the 100 meter. As you know, she won a couple weeks ago against the Jamaicans, and now she won it again right here. And then that 400 meter relay, oh my God. I keep watching that video like every week just to be like amazed at that, because she was the anchor and she killed it. So shout out to her and the women on that team for conquering that event, and shout out to her for continuing to just do her thing. The next person I want to talk about, and I have to talk about this person, is because they're from the area, and that's Noah Lyles. He's been talked about for the last few months, maybe the last year or so, and he's another one that's dominating every race that he's in, whether it's a relay or an individual's event. Like every race that he does, it was I forgot what race it was that he did, event he did, and he managed to close that gap and come back and still win. Like literally, he was dominating that. And also, to go back to Sha'Carri, she has been labeled now as the fastest woman in the world. I just want people to know that she has now been given the title as the fastest woman in the world. But Noah Lyles, again, he killing it. Noah Lyles and Sha'Carri Richardson are the two people that they're going to watch for the most when it comes to the Olympics next year, for sure. When it comes to track, those are the two right there. People are going to keep their eyes on the most. So definitely shout out to him as well. And the last person the last person, I mean, I feel like they need no introduction, but they kind of fall into the same category as Sha'Carri, and that is none other than Simone Biles. Now, the reason why I said they kind of fall into the same category is because, Simone, she ended up going through some things mental health wise these last couple of years. She had to take a break from the Olympics, and everyone again counted her out and said that she's being selfish. I'm like, she's going through some mental issues, and she messes up on those beans and injures herself, then what you gonna say? So she said I need to take a break. She took her break, and not only took her break, but she ended up finding love. She ended up getting engaged and then later married to a football player who plays for the Houston Texans. I think I talked about them on a live stream a while ago. And I don't know if that's, like I said, that's probably what she just needed. She needed to take some time and a break and just really collect herself. She probably went and got some therapy, kind of went into a shell a little bit. And now she's back and she's dominating so much, in fact, that she won her record 8th all-around title at the U.S. Gymnastics Championship. And to my knowledge, she now holds the title for the most wins in this event, whether it's man or woman. She's the number 1 overall. 8. So not only is she the most decorated gymnast of all time, but now she holds the title as having the most wins at the U.S. Gymnastics Championship World All-Around title. State Potter says it's okay to take a break, just don't quit. Yeah, I had no thoughts in my mind that she was going to quit. Like, definitely not. She couldn't quit at that point. She was at her peak, but now she's coming back and she's still dominating. So keep an eye on those three individuals that I highlighted: Sha'Carri Richardson, Noah Lyles, and Simone Biles at the Olympics next year. I'm telling you, that's probably going to be the only reason a lot of Black people watch anyway. I'm just being completely honest with you. And one thing before I go any further, I have to go back to Noah Lyles right quick. So Noah Lyles actually made a rather controversial comment recently about the NBA. Some of y'all may or may not know about it, but in case y'all don't know, he basically said, how do the NBA, when they win a championship, why do they call themselves world champions when they only play U.S. teams, with the exception of the Toronto Raptors, who of course is based out of Canada? And man, I saw some of those comments when it was posted up on Instagram. You had a lot of people who was in the NBA, like current NBA players, that got so upset when he said it. But you know what? That he's not the first person to pose that question. And when you think about it, it's not a bad question to pose, like to ask, because really, you really aren't the world champions. You literally mainly play 99% of the teams you play are US based, but you call yourself the world champions. And he said, unlike me, who runs track, when I wear this uniform, it says USA. So I'm playing for a nation against other nations. So technically, I have the title of world champion. And they got upset by that. And I said, I don't know why, because that's actually a valid question. And it's a question that many people have asked in the past. So I don't know why some of them got upset. The only other sport I could think of that has the title of world champion outside of the Olympics would be soccer, because those are actual nations competing against other nations. So when they talk about playing the World Cup in the World Cup, then yeah. Now, another one that I kind of question too is MLB, the Major League Baseball, because they call their championship the World Series, but they're not playing other teams from other nations. All of it's pretty much US based. There might be a Canadian team in there somewhere, but they too, like the NBA, fall into that category. But their name of their championship is called the World Series. So I'm not mad at him for even asking that question, but you know, they felt some type of way about it. It is what it is. But that's, like I said, it's a question that many people have asked over time before he even asked it. It's just that he has he's a major name in the spotlight right now, so his questioning, his line of questioning has some validity to it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But now that we've gotten through all the positive news, let's time to get into the BS. And we're going to start off with this one. Now, this story right here, I had initially, and I kid you not, I actually did record a whole video talking about this, but I said I have so much that I said, you know what, I'm going to dump that video. I literally deleted the video, and I said, let me just throw it into my live stream this week and talk about it with y'all. So we have this woman right here whose name I think is Anna Koch. I think that's what her name is. She's 74 years old, and she faces 600 years behind bars for sexually assaulting a teen. Now, many of y'all may not even heard about the story, but the story came out on August 4th, almost a month ago. Hold on, y'all. Yeah, almost a month ago. Now, the title of the video that I gave it was called A Rarity. The reason why I say that is because, as y'all can see, she's a PC woman, she's an older woman, and she's facing 600 years behind bars. That's very rare. She's an anomaly. She's an exception, definitely not the rule when it comes to situations such as these. But let's see what they're talking about. A 74-year-old former private school teacher in Monroe County, Wisconsin. Spidey, if you were still in here, let me know if you heard about this, because this happened in your state. Has been convicted and faces hundreds of years in prison after being charged with sexually abusing a 14-year-old male student. And Nelson Koch, age 74, was convicted on all 25 counts Monday, stemming from repeated sexual assaults on one of her 14-year-old male students, the Wisconsin State Journal reported. Nelson Koch, a teacher at a private school in Tama, is said to have assaulted the teenage boy in the basement of the school several times during the 2016 to 2017 school year. Nelson was 67 at the time and the boy was 14. The jury deliberated just 5 hours following a 3-day trial to return with a guilty verdict. The victim of these crimes is an incredibly brave young man, Assistant District Attorney Sarah M. Skiles said about the victim. He spoke the truth and the jury heard him loud and clear. We are so grateful to the jury for their dedication to finding the truth. Skiles asked the judge to keep Nelson Koch in jail until sentencing, but Monroe County Circuit Court Judge Richard Ratcliffe released her with a GPS monitor until she is sentenced on October 27th. Nelson Koch faces up to 600 years in prison, according to Monroe County District Attorney Kevin Croninger. So what do y'all think about that? Like I said, it's rare that one, she was found guilty of all 25 charges against her. That's rare that they got her on all of that. It's even rare because, like I said, she's a white woman, she's old, and she's facing all these years. I might have to revisit this when they pass down her sentencing because I want to see what they actually give her. So they said October 27th. So that's what? Well over a month from now, clearly. So we shall see. But let's Jay Barrett, you win comment of you win the comment of the story for this one. He said Golden Girls Gone Wild. that I'm mad at myself because that would have been a dope title if I decided to actually release this as its own individual video instead of putting it in here. Cosma Fury said Mrs. Herbert. Yeah, for those of y'all who watch Family Guy know who that character is. Let's see what else y'all talking about. Tedra said, why was she even teaching? Like I said, a lot of people get into these positions to get closer to whatever it is that they're craving. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. So yeah, what they also should do is, since they went back and she was doing this for years starting when she was 67, I say go back even further into her teaching repertoire, her teaching career, and see what other nonsense she was engaged in. Miss Renee says she's a child molester. Pretty much. I mean, that's the proper title to give her. But yeah, that's, like I said, this is a rarity that something like this actually happens in this case, because we've always seen it can go another way. She could have easily got off because of her, one, being a woman, two, her age, and of course the clear obvious one, her being PC. We've seen it so many times, but in this case, they got it right. I can't even be mad at it. So let's move on to the next story. Now, I know I said I was going to stop talking about Brett Favre situations because they keep seemingly giving us the same thing and we're not getting anything out of charges based. But then I had to think about to myself that I told y'all as my audience that I was going to keep y'all updated on the Brett Favre scandal. And I just can't stop. And then all of a sudden, this story fell into my lap like a week ago, where it says that the Supreme Court will not dismiss former NFL quarterback Brett Favre from the welfare scheme civil lawsuit. Because I think the last time I talked about it before, they were going back to court again, saying, oh, we need to go ahead and try to find a way to get him out of this and this, that, and the third. And now they come back and they give him the same results. But like I said, I told you I was going to stay updated with the Brett Favre situation, and that's exactly what I have to do no matter what kind of information they come out with surrounding him, because like it's always something that can get buried and it can change over time. So there's that. I don't think I need to stay too long on this because it's kind of the same, but like I said, I'm keeping y'all updated. But let's move on to the next story. Now, this is a story right here. This is actually kind of like related to what happened down in Florida with the the anti-black mass murder, let's call it what it is, at the hands of that terrorist Ryan Palmer. And some information came out about what he about two people he said he wanted to target. And I gotta admit, it kind of took me aback when I saw the names. It says racist mass shooter, mass murderer Ryan Palmer listed Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly as valid targets to be killed on sight. This was posted on the New York Post on August 31st, 2023. The racist gunman who killed 3 black people at a Dollar General in Florida called Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly valid targets who should be killed on sight, and claimed to have once been close enough to Kelly to have shot him. The white rappers were listed in a vile, nearly 30-page manifesto, which we still have yet to see, left by Ryan Palmer, age 21, after he shot up a Dollar General in Jacksonville on Saturday with 2 guns, including a swastika-painted AR-15 style rifle. Eminem started the abyss, being now, y'all, they blurred out the word, but I know what they said. He said, Eminem stared the abyss, being inward friendly, aka Eminem was being an inward lover. So I want y'all to understand, it's blurred out, but I know what was said right here, but they couldn't put it up on here. But I'm sure in the manifesto, it's probably the whole word is there. He said Eminem stared the abyss, being inward friendly, and the abyss stared back, becoming an inward. Palmer wrote while also sharing dreams of a race war. Walks the edge of the N-word lover, an honorary N-word. Fell off not because of his new stuff sucked, but because the lyrics were gay, annoying liberal shit. ROE for total N-word death is to include Eminem as a valid target, and he is to be killed on sight. Those are his words. Palmer also took aim at Machine Gun Kelly, even suggesting he may have once been close enough to have shot him. Colson Baker, aka Machine Gun Kelly, honorable N-word, to be killed on sight like Eminem, because I didn't get a shot at him. I didn't get a shot at him up in Ohio. Rob, I see you in the chart. See you in the chat. He was in your state. I'm just saying he was in your state. It was not clear when or where he had the apparent close interaction with the star in the Buckeye State. Reps for both stars did not return the Rolling Stones' request for comment, and the FBI told the magazine it had no comment on the report. In his hateful spew, Palmer also praised Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's conservative policies. Clarence Thomas, let me tell y'all something. If you ever get mentioned in something like this, people gonna look at you with the side. I mean, let's be real here. We've been looking at Clarence Thomas with the side eye for a long time anyway. But he brought up Clarence Thomas's name. He says, in his hateful spew, Palmer also praised Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's conservative policies. And Timothy McVeigh, the domestic terrorist who killed 168 people in the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, and noting he now lives in, not my heart. Timothy McVeigh don't live in my heart. He says, during a briefing call Monday, FBI Director Christopher Wray said the investigation into the shooting up to this point reveals the perpetrator of Saturday's attacks through his own writings. Through the references he made and through his actions, make clear his intentions, his actions, his motivations, his hate. Palmer, wearing a tactical vest and carrying a Glock pistol and the rifle, killed Angela Michelle Carr, Gerald Gallion, and Enote Joseph A.J. LaGuerre Jr. He fired 11 rounds at Carr as she sat in the car in the store's parking lot, while Gallion was gunned down as he entered the shop with his girlfriend. LaGuerre worked at the Dollar General and was trying to flee when he was shot and killed. After the shooting began, Palmer texted his father and told him to go into his room, where he found a will and a suicide note. His father called 911, telling the operator his son flunked out of college and had pretty much been living in his room. By the time his father learned what had happened, it was too late. Palmer, who turned the gun on himself 11 minutes after his rampage began, acted alone in his racist rampage, so they say. The guns Palmer used were purchased legally in April and June of this year. Despite Palmer having been held for emergency mental health evaluation for 3 days in 2017, though he was released after an examination. FBI investigators are treating the shooting as a hate crime. You know what? I had posted up something on my Twitter account. I'm still calling it Twitter. And what's going on, Brian? I had said, have y'all noticed that most of these mass shooters come from 2-parent households? Now, that's not saying that, people should grow up in a single parent household. That's not what I'm saying. But I made that observation because they do. But you got people like Larry Elder who's talking to, always got something to say about the black community, saying, oh, we're coming, the black community has a lot of fatherless homes, even though the CDC says otherwise. They're saying about black fathers are the most involved fathers out of any of them. And when I think about that, I said, you know what? You can be a father in the home or a dad in the home that has the title of dad and still not be a father. But like I said, I noticed that most of these mass shooters come from a 2-parent household. You rarely come across one where they come from a single parent household, whether they were raised by just the dad or raised by just the mother. This is another case right here where he came from a 2-parent household. Peyton Gendron came from a 2-parent household. Dylan Roof came from a 2-parent household, so on and so forth. But it didn't stop them from doing what they did. And it doesn't even have to be just the ones that do anti-black mass shootings. It can be the ones that go and target these schools. Still the same trajectory. That's just something that I made sure that I had pointed out there. Exactly. Stay positive. Ethan Crumbly, 2-parent household, and his parents are trash. Like, when you know the details about his parents are gutter trash. What's his name? He wasn't a mass shooter, but I'll throw him in there anyway. Affluenza boy, Ethan Couch, 2-parent, affluent 2-parent household, and look at what he did. Even though what he did wasn't a mass shooting, but it still was a tragedy nonetheless. I said the obvious thing is we can definitely point out that they're PC. That's the obvious thing, but I wanted to point out something that a lot of people don't acknowledge, and that was it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, but now we can go ahead and move on to the next story. And y'all, we are taking a trip down to Georgia. Do y'all want to put in the chat and say why and guess why we're headed back to Georgia? Particularly Atlanta, Georgia. Chosen One is on it. We are headed back to Georgia because there was yet another drowning at Lake Lanier. Now, here's the crazy part. I felt like I just did a video about a recent drowning in Lake Lanier where somebody got electrocuted at Lake Lanier like 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks later, we have this 23-year-old individual who died swimming at the lake. This story came out on the 27th. I'm keep telling y'all can keep going to that lake if you want to. But I'm not going anywhere near it. But okay. It says a 23-year-old man is dead after going for a swim in Lake Lanier on Saturday, according to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. At this point, with all the stories we've been hearing about with Lake Lanier, if y'all want to continue to go there, y'all go at your own risk. Glutton for punishment. That's really all it boils down to. Just before 3 p.m., game wardens, Gwinnett County Fire and Emergency Services, and the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office responded to a possible drowning at Lake Lanier in Gwinnett County. They were told that a man went under while he was swimming and did not come back up. Soon after arriving, game wardens were able to find the man's body in approximately 10 feet of water. Gwinnett's fire rescue swimmers were able to recover the body. The man has been identified as 23-year-old Edgar Stephen Cruz Martinez. His city of residence is unknown. This is the third death at Lake Lanier in recent months and the seventh drowning this year at the lake. A 61-year-old Stone Mountain man disappeared after he drove off the side of a boat in late July. His body was recovered a few hours later. A 27-year-old man disappeared while swimming in the lake the same day. Just a few days before, 24-year-old Thomas Milner was killed when he was electrocuted after jumping off of a dock into the lake. And then right here, it just goes into more details and stuff like that. They say, why do people die there? Do y'all really want the answer to that question? I think us as Black people, specifically Black Americans, know why that is. That was one of my entries on the Black Massacre series, by the way. Shout out to that. Y'all better stay out. Y'all better stay out of that lake. Tony said, how many are Black people? The only Black person I know of recently, well, that died at that lake is Usher's stepson. If y'all remember when I did my video, Usher's stepson had died in that boating accident down there. But see, his didn't come from a drowning. His came from a boating accident. See, all of these other ones come from drownings for the most part, but his came from a boating accident. Like I believe his ex-wife's boyfriend or whoever she was with at the time had hit her son with the boat. It was an accident, but he still had to do time because a child still died at the end of the day. But that's the only one I can think of. But that happened so many years ago now. But these recent ones, for the most part, are all non-Black, to answer your question. Now, this recent one, based on that last name, that sounds kind of south of the Bordarian-ish. But the other ones were all PC. Like I said, y'all can continue to go swim in that lake if you want to. I believe Usher's ex-wife was trying to see if they could get the lake drained. I'm gonna be honest with you. If they drained that lake, I would be shook to see what is down there. I'm just being honest with you. So they can continue to play with their lives if they want to at this lake. And keep this in mind. It's only September now. How much you want to bet we might hear at least one more Lake Lanier story before this year is up? That's crazy. We got 3 just in the summer. JB Easy said Jason is down there. That's the wrong lake. Jason's at Camp Crystal Lake. Those are 2 different lakes. And if there was a real place called Camp Crystal Lake, which I believe there is, I wouldn't go there. I don't give a damn if it's only in a movie. If it exists in real life, even though it has no connection, I still wouldn't go there. The Geek Surgeon said, are you going to the lake? No, I am not. Nope. Have no plans of going to that lake. I don't like being around a lot of bodies of water that I can't see in any way, unless I'm at a beach, of course, but I don't go too far in the water anyway. Let me tell you, because like I said, water is one of the most powerful forces in nature. Them currents are no joke. You can be the best swimmer in the world, but if that current pulls you under, that's it. Good luck getting back up. I'm not scared. I'm cautious. That's a difference. It's a difference between being scared and being cautious, and I'm being cautious. I'm not playing around with my life. Spidey said, would I go to Amityville Beach? I've never been to Amityville, New York. I try to stay out of places, that people deem to be quote unquote cursed or anything like that. Call me superstitious, but it is what it is. And I'm not going anywhere near Lake Lanier. Not even to drive by it. If it says that I have to go past Lake Lanier, we're gonna find a detour and we're gonna go another way. I don't give a damn if it gives us an extra hour's worth of a drive in the scenic route. We going the other way. But let's move on to the next story. And now this is another story right here that I have recorded a video on, but I didn't upload it. I scrapped it and decided let me bring it on here. And that's this woman right here whose name is Linda Johnson. Now, this is a dummy right here. I understand if you want to have money and all this, that, and the third, but if this is the route you're going to do it, then you deserve to get caught. So this woman's name right here, her name is Linda Johnson. She's 35 years old, and she was a Wendy's manager. And what she ended up doing was she created, as the article suggests, a ghost employee. Basically, she created a fake employee, a fake profile, hired the fake employee, which was really her, and gave the employee all of these hours that are unconventional to a regular employee that she gives to her other employees. And they were basically making a whole bunch of money without having to do one days of work because the employee did not exist. So she was making her money as a manager, which is, I'm sure, is a good enough money for her position. Plus this other entity was making money, probably around the same scale as she was. And she ended up racking almost $20,000 from her scheme. I'm going to read this little small article right here. A Wendy's general manager is accused of stealing nearly $20,000 from her employer by creating a ghost employee who appeared to clock in and out for close to a year. Police said Linda Johnson of Monroe, Louisiana, worked as the general manager of the Wendy's restaurant in Harrisburg Pike in Manheim Township when the owners of the franchise called police to report fraud. The owner said Johnson created an employee who never actually worked at the restaurant, and she was personally collecting that employee's wages. A forensic audit showed the ghost employee named William Bright made $19,898.15 over 22 pay periods between June 28, 2021 and May 1st, 2022. Police said Johnson manually entered 128 shifts for Bright, a task only the general manager could perform. The restaurant's insurance company paid out $15,846.91 for the incident. Police said 3 other managers at the locations reported never working with Bright. One acknowledged meeting Bright, but said they never shared a shift. Manheim Township Police Sergeant Barry Waltz said Bright is a real person known to Johnson, but he never had a job at Wendy's or a legitimate record with the company. Police have no personal details about Bright, and they are not investigating him as a co-conspirator. Police spoke with Johnson in April 2023 when she admitted creating Bright and giving him shifts he never worked. She said his paychecks went directly into her Cash App account, and she was using the money to care for her children. I'm willing to bet she was skimming some off the top as well for her own personal needs or her own personal wants. Johnson was charged July 7th with 1 count of theft by deception. Her whereabouts are currently unknown. Damn. And mind you, this was back in July. And then they said anyone with information can call the department. That's the number right there. But this is, let me pull up her picture. This is her right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yep, that's her. I'm actually shocked that she was able to get away with it for almost a year. That's the part that actually shocked me. And like someone said in the chat moving kind of fast. She didn't know when to stop. Exactly. She didn't know when to stop. She was like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually pulling this off. So let me continue to go and get more money. She got greedy. And that's usually the downfall of these type of crimes, is that it's never enough. Even if it is enough for them to live comfortably, living comfortably is not enough. They always going to want more. So that's why she ended up getting caught. If she only did and got a little bit of it, then she would have been fine. But what really messed her up is that she signed up this ghost employee for all these shifts that she wouldn't even give to a regular employee. There's no way a regular employee is working 128 shifts over the course of a year. There's no way that's happening. So she didn't strategize it right. If she would have did it and had it where this ghost employee was working the same amount of hours as a regular employee, she would have probably gotten away with it. She probably would have still been doing it. But that greed, like Brian said in the chat, that greed will do it every time. It was never enough for her. But now they got it, but they said her whereabouts are unknown. So she's on the run clearly, but I'm telling you right now, when they catch up to her, it's going to be some consequences, even more than what she has right now. But let's move on to the next one, and this is dealing with reparations. I feel like I haven't talked about reparations in a while on this channel, but here we go, and it's some nonsense. Just look at the title. Asian reparations staffer in Minnesota steps down after Black leaders protest her hiring as total disrespect. And shout out to the fundraiser for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it. He said she should have done weekends and then quit after a certain amount of time. Right. Like I said, when that greed gets in, when that greed kicks in, you don't know when to stop. You keep going like the damn Energizer Bunny. It's never enough. When people are greedy, enough is never enough. They always want more. Good thing she didn't work at some kind of high-end store. Could you imagine? She probably would have made off like a bandit for real. But anyway, back to this. This is an Asian reparation staffer in Minnesota steps down after Black leaders protest her hiring as total disrespect. I can't even be mad at them. Like, this is y'all notice that when it comes to the topic of reparations for us, they always got to insert other people in there somehow, some way, whether it's in the conversation of reparations or somewhere on a board or a panel. They don't do that with any other group, just us. Let's see what they're talking about. An Asian American candidate for the St. Paul, Minnesota Reparations Commission. First off, how did they even become a candidate? That's what I'd like to know. Has withdrawn her name after Black community leaders protested her hiring over concerns that she did not understand Black Americans' lived experience in the city or at all. On Tuesday, Black community leaders led a chant outside of the St. Paul City Hall condemning the city council's decision to hire a non-Black policy aide to staff the Reparations Commission. Traherne Cruz, a leader of the St. Paul's reparation movement, insisted the protest was not about the person. It's just that we need somebody who has lived experience, knowledge of reparations, knowledge of the racial wealth gap and how it impacts the descendants of slavery who reside in St. Paul, Cruz told Star Tribune. My thing is this: you don't have to explain to them why you did it. It should be obvious. It, first off, should not have even gotten this far to the point where this person became a candidate to be hired, because it would never get this far if it was them or any other group. Exactly, Miss Renee. She's not Black. Hello. Obviously. Black Lives Matter Twin Cities leader Chantel Allen, who also serves as a St. Paul school member, agreed with others at the Tuesday newscast that the city council needs to take a look at the applicant pool and consider qualified Black candidates. They also suggested the council repost the job position and recruit Black candidates. President of the Black Leadership Council, Tyrone Terrell, called the decision to hire Jennifer Lohr, who currently serves as a policy aide for council member Nelsie Yang, total disrespect for the Black community. We're not going for it, he added. Hours after the protests involving Black community leaders, Lohr withdrew her name from the consideration for the position. The council posted a job listing the senior policy aide in early June, which noted the person hired would spend half their working hours on reparation policy while also working as the council's district liaison. That in and of itself is a problem. The fact that we can't be allotted a full-time position to work on something that's so much work, so deeply rooted and so historical, Allen said. We're talking 400 years of oppression that needs to be addressed. Reacting to concerns from Black leaders, the lead author of the reparations ordinance, council member Jane Prince, says she had little involvement in the hiring process for the aide position. Before I go any further, Notice that all other groups who've gotten something, some kind of reparations, they don't have to go through all of this. They go through a little bit of conversation here and there, and boom, checks distributed. And it's usually not a one-time thing. Us, on the other hand, we got to go through studies, we got to go through panels, we got to go through business meetings, we got to have these board conversations, basically getting the runaround because they don't want to pay. But that's fine, because November of next year is going to be a very interesting one. I don't know if Kid Gravity is still in this chat, but the next election cycle, this election cycle that's going on right now, is going to be very interesting. I'm gonna just leave it right there. The council failed its first reparations test by our failure to recognize the Black community's investment in a representative process. She added that the commission will be able to advise the selection process from now on and call Lord a smart, talented, and highly capable professional. In January, the council voted to create an advisory board that would make recommendations and budget decisions to city leaders related to reparations for descendants of enslaved people. In June, the commission appointed 11 members. The commission planned to hold its first official meeting later this year. The city council and Jennifer Lord did not immediately return Fox News Digital requests for comment. But yeah, like I said, see how they shoehorn, or they try to shoehorn other groups of people into what we got going on. I'm glad they called it out and they took care of it, and they got her out the paint. But at the same time, it shouldn't have even gotten to the point where you had to do that. But let's move on to the next story. And this is a story that I just kind of threw in there because it happened yesterday. And yeah, it's not looking good for Tim Scott if this is what they about to come at him with. So Tim Scott, old Timmy, down there in South Carolina, is in the hot seat for something that he's been in the hot seat before, but he's managed to dodge. But that's because he wasn't running for president. But now that he is, that question has come up again. Exclusive: GOP donors fret over Scott's single status. I'm gonna be honest. When a couple years ago, when I first started to listen to more political stuff and Tim Scott's name came up, I was like, one of the first things I said was, I feel bad for his wife and children if he has any. Only to find out soon after that he had no wife and no children. I was like, oh, okay. In the conversation of Tim Scott, you don't have a wife, you don't have children, you're in your mid-40s. What's going on here? And you're trying to run for president. And we know with the conservatives, they have this image that they want to uphold, where you have the nuclear family, husband, wife, child or children. And you're not checking off any of the boxes. One, you're not white, so that's a big giant check right there. Two, you are not married. That's another check right there. And three, you don't have any children, or at least one child. Check. They're saying they are pulling money from him if you do not explain yourself. But let's see what they bring up here. Top GOP donors and their allies privately are pushing Senator Tim Scott's team for more detail about his bachelor status before deciding how much to support him in the presidential campaign, according to two people familiar with the conversations. Why it matters. Many of the donors are in the market for a viable alternatives to former President Trump, but still aren't sure about Ron DeSnowflake, which, by the way, shout out to the Oak Tree. I meant to say that at the beginning, but it's 295 people, and I'll say it right now. Shout out to the Oak Tree down there in Tallahassee, who's running second to Trump in GOP polls. Scott, oh, snap. Tim Scott's not even in his mid-40s. He's 57. He's almost 60. Why did I think Tim Scott was in his 40s? Tim Scott, 57. My bad. I thought he was in his mid 40s. Excuse me. He's almost 60. Is among those trying to woo such fundraisers. And eclectic, I think that's the question that they're trying to, I think that's the question they want to ask. At this point, I think that's the question they want to ask, but they're not bringing themselves to ask it. The U.S. hasn't elected an unmarried person as president in 139 years. It's typical for candidates to trot out their families to try to enhance their appeal to voters. Scott's reluctance to say about his private life has raised concerns among some conservative Republican donors, according to the sources, who requested anonymity given the sensitivity of the issue. What is driving the news? Responding to this reporting, a senior official for Scott's campaign told Axios the South Carolina senator will be discussing the issue in the coming weeks. During an interview with Axios, Scott said he had a girlfriend but kept her identity private. Tim Scott, your AI doll or the one that you can inflate does not count. He said the fact that half of America's adult population is single for the first time to suggest that somehow being married or not married is going to be the determining factor of whether you're a good president or not. It sounds like we're living in 1963 and not 2023. Well, here's the thing, Tim Scott. Did you do a thorough examination of your party before you decided to become affiliated with it? Not only affiliated with the party, but also deciding to run for president. Like, did you look at the landscape of all the last presidents that we've had? For my lifetime, for my parents' lifetime, for my grandparents' lifetime. What did you see? You saw a husband, a wife, and some kids. At the very least, a husband and a wife. Do you think they're going to actually elect a single unmarried, never have been married? Because here's the thing, is Tim Scott has never been married, because they notice the phrasing, unmarried. Unmarried, childless, and you're a black man? They don't even want you there because of the one major thing, and that's you being black. But you could have had some leeway if you had the other two things that you could have definitely controlled. Tim Scott is the definition of a person who does not know how to read the room well. And shout out to 12. I'm sorry, I was about to call out the super chat amount by your name, but shout out to Wall Street Tech for the 1234 super chat. He says, "Carry on, dude," and that's exactly what I plan on doing. But thank you for watching. Okay, let me continue. He said he also spun being single as a potential plus. I probably have more time, more energy, and more latitude to do the job. He said, adding that even so, my girlfriend wants to see me when I come home. Tim Scott, none of us believe you have a girlfriend, because all the other people who are running with you, we have seen their spouses. Whether they're trotting them out wherever or we've seen them in pictures. We've never seen a picture with you and this so-called girlfriend keeping her identity a secret. Well, here's the thing, Tim Scott. Let's hypothetically say, which we know this will never happen, that you became president. Your so-called girlfriend can no longer be a secret. She can no longer have her identity hidden. She's going to have to be out there in the public. I mean, come on, let's be real here. JB, he said even Andrew Gilliam had a wife. As funny, as crazy as that sounds, yes, he did. And aren't they still together? Even after all that stuff came out about him? Emphasis on the came out part. Let's see what else they're talking about here. Potential donors who've asked Scott's campaign about his personal life have been told much the same thing, but for some, it's only fueled their curiosity and apprehension, the sources said. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker went through the same thing, running for president in 2020, and it seems to not have been a problem for him. But maybe that's more normal for Democrats, said one source from actually, when the thing with Cory Booker happened, people was on his case too. Let's not try to spin this. When that stuff with Cory Booker happened, people was questioning about him too. And then that's when it came out that he was dating Rosario Dawson. I don't know if they're still dating or not. A lot of people was kind of side-eyeing the timing of everything, but then people started to leave it alone after a while. I was like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. But it's like, okay, yeah, that happened. But back to you, Tim Scott. Don't try to spin this. Spidey said he was a somehow I wouldn't be surprised by that. Somehow I would not be surprised. And I think a lot of the things that keeps coming about this is because of Tim Scott's stance on what happened with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And a lot of people was like, well, hold on, Tim Scott, you were never married. And first off, you never had any children. Let's just put it right there, because you didn't even have to be married to have children. You never had children. So you'll never know what a woman has to go through when it comes to the pregnancy and the birthing process and all of that stuff. So you have no say in it at all. Definitely not you. They said one as a man, and two as a person who's never had children. So nice try. The same person told Axios that some donors have questions, but it's not a majority. I'm surprised it doesn't come up more, the source says. Between the lines, in his first 5 weeks as a candidate, Scott spent about $800,000 more than he raised, according to campaign finance disclosures. Scott can continue that spending for a while. However, he transferred $22 million from his Senate campaign account at the outset of his presidential campaign. As of July, he had $21 million on hand, second only to Trump among Republican presidential candidates. Scott had at least one mega donor in his corner, Oracle founder Larry Ellison, who was set to donate an 8-figure sum to pro-Scott super PAC. Let me see. I don't want to read anything else that has nothing to do with. Okay, let me see. It says the U.S. has not elected a bachelor to be president since Grover Cleveland in 1884, but there have been other single candidates recently. When Booker ran for president, he was dating actress Rosario Dawson, so they say. Senator Bob Kerrey ran for president in 1992, 14 years after his divorce, but again, he was married. Tim Scott, you were never married. But unlike Booker, he didn't date while campaigning because he thought it would be a distraction. People do not know who Bob Kerrey is, and I don't want them to be reading stories about who it is that I'm dating and trying to figure out who I am, he told the New York Times then. There have been 2 bachelor presidents, Cleveland and James Buchanan. Cleveland married while in office. Buchanan was a lifelong bachelor. But look at how long ago that was. I bet you they're not going to live in the past now, because they always keep telling us not to live in the past and then looking towards the future. But it seems to me they ain't trying to go back there, at least with this. All in all, Tim Scott, you should have known, like, this is the party. This is the party you're part of. You should have read the room a little bit better, especially with you being the only black candidate up there. But you know what? This is, we don't have to really worry about this, because it's not like Tim Scott's going to get very far anyway. This guy would never, ever be president. I wouldn't have this man be a president over the ant colony building organization. All right, y'all. We're going to get into the 2 major stories that people have been dying all week for me to talk about. I mean, I'm telling y'all literally was waiting for me, and I'm not even exaggerating this either, for me to talk about these 2 stories. The first one, we're going to be talking about Cuby, or Jacoby, however you pronounce her name, Pittman, who looks like Oblina from Our Real Monsters. Those of y'all who remember the cartoon know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I'm sure many of y'all have already seen this video plenty of times. I've seen it as well, but we're going to go play it, and go over the absolute nonsense and filth that left this woman's mouth.
Well, thank you for doing this. I want to just say to the councilwoman, I got you. Don't worry about it. We've already been looking to identify funds to be able to help, one, make sure there's adequate security for Edward Waters College. We are not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people.
Okay, listen, y'all. Let me tell you, we finna put parties aside, cause it ain't about parties today. A bullet don't know a party, so don't get me started. Okay, Jacoby is nice, but Ann is not. Now, if the governor wanted to come here and he bringing gifts to my community, y'all know I'm taking the gifts, because we've been through enough already, and I don't want to go through no more. Now, y'all just be quiet just a minute and let the governor say what he gonna say, and we gonna get this party started. You hear me?
Okay. I already knew just by how her appearance was that I was going to be very annoyed with her. Let's just start off right there. You see, like I said, if y'all remember the show Our Real Monster, she looks just like Gablina. And shout out to John Guillory for being a member of the channel for 3 months and counting. I definitely appreciate that. So as y'all saw right here, you had Ron DeSnowflake and his wife, Mrs. DeSnowflake, come down there. And let me just say both of them are trash. And shout out again to the Oak Tree. Shout out to the Oak Tree. Came down there and spoke at a vigil, which, by the way, Ron DeSnowflake and Mrs. DeSnowflake were not invited. And shout out to Rob for being a member for 6 months, Black Light Revelation. Shout out to you, and shout out to the radiation emojis as well. They were not invited to speak there. And obviously, it's obvious why. Like, no sane person down there was going to invite them to speak at anything. As you can see from the reception of the people who were booing them, it's just unfortunate nobody thought to take off a shoe and do what that guy did at George Bush all them years ago. But this one should have connected or have some food, a tomato, something. But it is what it is. But they booed him, as they should have, for coming there, because they know what this guy does. They live down there. Those policies he be making affects them. The fact that this Ryan Palmer did what he did is because of policies he's enacted. He's emboldened him. And shout out to Marcus Bolden for the $10 super chat. He said, this is what happens when you elect Bunny Ruckus to any political position. Hell, I wouldn't trust her with a box of Twinkies. Always appreciate your perspective and content, bro. I appreciate it. But like I said, they know him. They live in the state. They know the policies he implements affects them more than anybody else. And he has emboldened people like a Ryan Palmer and others as well. You know, the CRT thing, the Stop Woke Act, and implementing PragerU into the schools, rewriting what slavery actually was, and all other types of stuff. And that was just within the last couple of months. Like I said, it was a powder keg waiting to explode. So why would they want him down there? They didn't want him there. And then all of a sudden, you got Ronald McDonald's sister come up, and I don't know if y'all peeped it, but when because basically DeSantis was calling on the councilwoman to basically come and try to calm down the crowd because he was losing control. He didn't have control to begin with. But did y'all peep how y'all probably couldn't hear it because no one's mouth was at the mic? She was like, Did y'all hear that? She was like, She said, we're not going to do this today. Now, he came down here. The part that got me was when she was talking about some gifts. She told on herself right there when she was talking about gifts. What gifts did he come down there to bring? Well, we know what you in it for. You in there for all the butter biscuits that you can devour. She looked like she just got done eating some before she got up there, which is why her mouth sounded the way that, like, her voice sounded the way that it did. She's probably eating them dry ass Popeyes biscuits with no honey, no jelly, and no water. Got crumbs falling out around her mouth. And they're going to say this has nothing to do with parties and talking about get this party started. It's a vigil. What did you think you was at? A party? And some of the people was looking at her like they wanted to snatch her, like literally snatch that mic out of her hand. A piece of me wishes that they did. But I also have to mention something that Professor Black Truth said in one of his most recent addresses that he did, because as y'all know, Professor Black Truth, he's kind of like on a break, so he kind of like posts things sporadically here and there. He did an address on this situation, and one thing he pointed out, and I have to agree with him, is that the black people there had that energy to boo Ron DeSantis, as they should have, but the minute she came over and took the mic, those boos fell silent. And then you started to hear a lot of people start to applaud, which was the weirdest thing. It's like, how did you go from booing this man who you know is a catalyst as to why this happened? Then she takes the mic and says what she says and berates you to your face. And the boos stop and you start clapping. Like, that was weird. Like, that tone shift was weird. It's like the energy was high when they were booing DeSantis, and the minute she took that mic and started to berate that crowd, the people who helped her get into her position, the energy fell flat. It pretty much just died. It flatlined. If anything, they should have checked her more for her trying to run interception for him and defend him than anything. They should have cussed her out on sight and had the opportunity to do so when she did that. That was some off-code behavior. So now they're going to look at this situation like, oh, we still got him. We felt like we was losing him for a little bit, but it seems to me that we still got him. Hook, line, and sinker. She should have not been allowed to get off the hook or pop off the way that she did. The minute she did that, it should have been immediate clapback. Immediately. I don't care if it even came from just one person. I didn't hear one person out there come at her for what she said. Because if one person would have did it, more people probably would have jumped in and did it. Because I'm willing to bet those boos probably started off with one person and it spilled over to everyone doing it. But when everyone else got silent, when she said what she said, that was it. To be me, said he used the black woman to shut them up. That's a good point. Remember what they kept saying, that the black woman is the backbone of the Democratic Party as well as the community? What did we just see happen? She turned into mommy the mammy. And whatever mommy the mammy says goes. She says jump, you better say how high. When she tells you to be quiet in front of massa, you better act accordingly. Notice that she said, y'all got, what's her name? Y'all got Jacoby today. Don't make Ann come out. So she's basically saying she has an alter ego. And her alter ego's name is Ann. How ironic her alter ego name is Ann. She wants to bring out her alter ego on black people. If I was the people out there, the best thing y'all can do after this is get her out of her position. Man, that is insane. When I first saw this video, I said, wow. Like someone said in the chat, the conditioning is real. Unfortunately, I have high hope. I want to say I have high hopes for what's going to come next year. But if it's anything like what this is right here, my high hopes is gonna drop a few notches down to the mid-level. But we shall see. We shall see. But at the end of the day, the snowflake, Mr. and Mrs. trash. This woman right here, absolute trash. Didn't know of this woman before this event, and I'll be fine if I don't hear any more about her afterwards. And shout out to DSB for the super chat. He says her day is coming just like the rest of them, right? And it's going to be from the people who ask they kiss the most. It always goes down that way every single time. Now, with that being said, let's move on to the last story. Now, this last story right here probably came to me so highly requested. Like, listen, y'all literally bombarded me with asking me about this story from the time it happened. Y'all kept saying, Torrin, you going to talk about this? I got people on Discord, on my DMs on Twitter. People tagged me on Twitter, my DMs on Instagram, the comment section. I get a lot of requests, but this one right here seemed to be the one that a lot of people wanted me to talk about. And my bad, I ended up closing the screen. Let me go ahead and open it back up. And that is what happened at UNC, the University of North Carolina, in that shooting that happened out there. When I first heard about this, I immediately thought of V-Tech back in 2007 because the person who did that was Asian too. So I definitely thought about that when I first heard about this story, where you have this Asian man who killed his professor. And I truly believe that this was a targeted attack. I believe that he had a target and that was his target. Because you got to think, when you are on a campus and it's a lot of people that's there, you could spray just about any and everybody if you really wanted to. But when you go after specifically just one person and they just give up after that, that means it was a specific target. But let's see what they're talking about. The suspect in the fatal shooting of a faculty member at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on Monday is a graduate student of the school, UNC police said it in a news release Tuesday. Tali, I think his last name is pronounced She, even though it's spelled Qi, and you would think that it's spelled Qui, but I think it's pronounced She. The grad student was charged with first-degree murder. The fact that he was charged with first degree means it was premeditated. And having a gun on education property in court Tuesday, he did not enter a plea and was ordered held without bond. The victim was identified as Ji Yan, an associate professor in the Department of Applied Physical Sciences who had worked for UNC since 2019. The two knew each other, UNC Police Chief Brian James said Tuesday. She was a grad student at the same department and Yan was his faculty advisor, according to She's UNC biographical page, which has been deleted but is available in the Internet's archives Wayback Machine. She entered the school in 2022 and listed his previous education at Louisiana State University and Wuhan University, the page said. So this is the shooter right here on the left, and this is the professor on the right. I got a question. Y'all know a question I'm about to ask to the Asian American community. Where y'all at to denounce this clearly obvious proximity-based crime, aka Asian on Asian crime? What have I told y'all? I told y'all once they got that anti-Asian hate crime bill on the books, they was going to go absolutely insane with it. So as y'all can see, and by the way, This will be the third time I talk about someone in that community doing some crazy, heinous stuff this within a month. The other one, y'all haven't gotten the video on yet. And the one I'm talking about is the Asian guy down in Florida, I believe it was, who was injecting those chemicals underneath his neighbor's door. I think it was like some opioid-based chemicals through a syringe under the door. Y'all will get that video soon. But y'all got the video was it yesterday or a couple of days ago with the doctor down in Florida who was violating those women and recording it. Now you have this one. And let's not forget what happened earlier this year in California out in Monterey Park. It's amazing. They don't really talk about that no more. But I remember when that happened, and all of that happened within the same week. It says she entered the courtroom Tuesday wearing an orange jail outfit with his hands cuffed in front of him. He used an interpreter and was assigned a public defender for his first appearance. He is a citizen of China and is in the United States on a visa, District Attorney Jeff Neiman said. Neiman said the gun possession charge was related to a 9mm handgun. The firearm used in the shooting still has not been recovered. And by the way, I don't know if y'all have seen it, but now there is an influx of new migrants coming in to the establishment that are not south of the Borderian. They look like this guy. Just giving y'all a heads up. Neiman said, I already read that part. If convicted, she faces a minimum of life in prison without parole for the murder charge and up to 2 years for the weapons charge. The maximum sentence for first-degree murder in North Carolina is the death penalty, but Neiman said his office policy is to not seek the death penalty. UNC Chancellor Kevin Guskiewicz expressed his condolences to Jan's family and said the campus will ring the bell tower in his honor on Wednesday. He was a beloved colleague, mentor, and a friend to so many on our campus and a father to 2 young children, he said. The early afternoon shooting at the school's Caudill Laboratories at Chemistry Studies building sent the university into lockdown for hours. The suspect was located on foot about a mile away and detained about 90 minutes afterwards. His car was found on campus. We want to ensure that we gather every piece of evidence to determine exactly what happened here today and why it happened, James said at a news conference Monday evening. It's way too early in this investigation to know a motive for the shooting. Classes and campus activities were canceled Monday and Tuesday and will continue to be closed Wednesday, officials said. This is the second week of fall semester classes at the flagship university of the 17-member UNC system. This loss is devastating, and the shooting damages the trust and safety that we so often take for granted in our campus community. We will work to rebuild that sense of trust and safety within our community. After 911 calls about the shooting came in shortly after 1 p.m., university police issued an alert advising students to go inside immediately, close windows and doors, and to wait until further notice, according to an email. A witness on campus told CNN that they were locked down in their building and saw armed officers searching campus. Video from affiliate WRAL showed a large number of police vehicles at the campus with the emergency lights flashing. At times, people walked out of nearby buildings in a single file line with their arms in the air. Police detained one person before the suspect's arrest, but they determined very quickly it was not the gunman. The suspect was taken into custody shortly after 2:30 p.m. The university continued in lockdown for a couple hours after the suspect was detained because authorities were working to confirm they had the right person and trying to find the firearm that was used. The university has a student body of about 32,000, along with 4,000 faculty and 9,000 staff members. The FBI is assisting in evidence gathering. 49 school shootings have happened in this U.S. year alone, including the U.S. shooting. 34 have been reported on K-12 campuses and 15 on university and college campuses, according to CNN tally. Now, this is 30. There have been 49 school shootings that happened this year. Interestingly enough, I didn't hear about 49 school shootings. I don't think I've heard of 5, but there were 49. So I'm guessing those were the ones that were underreported, even though something like that, excuse me, should be heavily reported. It's not looking too good for them because, like Logical Facts said in the chat about what affirmative action, we know how that went. Jay Bear said, "I wonder what the motive was." That's what I'm wondering too, because they say he was a grad student, and it doesn't sound to me like the professor was one of his teachers. So, like I said, it definitely was a personal thing. I wonder if it's something that happened when he was an undergrad, when he had him as a student, and this was his way of getting revenge. I don't know. But either way, we know they're not going to label this as Asian on Asian crime, because you know that proximity crime label is only for us, as if we're the only ones that engage in it. Okay. But anyway, y'all, that was the last story of the day. Thank everybody for coming through. We got an hour and a half in. Like I said, this live stream will stay up on the channel. So for those of y'all who missed it, y'all can go back and catch the playback of this. Again, like I said, I uploaded my first exclusive Patreon video yesterday that I would never put up on YouTube because of the graphic content of what was said and shown in that video. And I probably think I have another one that's going to be put up there maybe sometime this weekend. Shout out to everybody that came through. Shout out to everybody who hit the super chat button. Shout out to all the members, all the people that's on Patreon. I appreciate everyone for coming through, tuning in. We will be back with my one video tomorrow. It'll be uploaded at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The premiere window is already there, so make sure y'all go ahead and have your notifications turned on for that. Enjoy the rest of your long weekend, because I know many of y'all are not going to be working on Monday, so enjoy your long weekend. And with that being said, I'm about to head up out of here. Enjoy your Friday, the rest of your Friday, the rest of your weekend. Be safe and be one.